We've been exploring Michigan's Manistee National Forest, and in this video, we'll share what we've learned about dispersed camping here. Hey everyone, welcome back, or if you're new here, welcome. We're glad you're here. We're Tim and Gina, and we make videos about camping, travel, and exploration. We like to share our enthusiasm and appreciation for nature and the outdoors, and what we've learned while we're out on our adventures, and we hope we inspire you in some way. This was our first time exploring Manistee, so we're not experts by any means, but we will share what we've learned through research and exploration about dispersed camping in Manistee. So we invite anyone with more experience to share that knowledge in the comments below. That way we can all learn together. Manistee seems to have 3 types of dispersed camping. And just for clarity, when we're talking about dispersed camping, we mean vehicle-supported camping, not backpacking camping. So camping you can drive to. We've camped in many national forests and grasslands, and so far they all offer some sort of dispersed camping. There are 2 things we love about dispersed camping, and probably this is true for most people who enjoy it. You are isolated from other people. You kind of have your own private little piece of paradise, and it's usually free. There are exceptions to both of these, which we'll get into in just a minute. Huron Manistee National Forest is primarily 2 sections of forested land in central Michigan. To the east is Huron Forest, and to the west side is Manistee. We were camping and exploring the Manistee area of the National Forest, but everything we're going to talk about should apply to both areas. You can find more information about Huron Manistee on the Forest Service website, but we've noticed that it can be difficult to find information about dispersed camping on any of the National Forest websites. It's there, but it can be difficult to find. This is partially because of the nature of dispersed camping itself. Forest Service land is public land, and in most forests, you can camp anywhere in the forest as long as you follow just a few rules. You can't camp too close to roads, waterways, or other established camping areas. You can't destroy nature to create a campsite of your own. You're encouraged to look for already established dispersed campsites. You can only stay for a limited time period, usually 14 days, and you have to be aware of any special or protected areas that might have different requirements. And of course, it's your responsibility to make sure you are on National Forest land and to respect private property, as there are often private parcels kind of scattered within the National Forest. So this is the kind of dispersed camping that we're most familiar with. We'll call it traditional dispersed camping. There are no maps laying out where these traditional dispersed camping areas are because, again, you can camp anywhere within the National Forest as long as you follow those rules. We always try to follow tread lightly principles when dispersed camping, which include camping on durable surfaces, open areas where you're not going to do any damage, or preferably looking for a campsite that has been previously established. So we often look for a fire ring and try to only camp where there's already a fire ring. This type of camping is also first come, first serve, of course. So this can be a little bit frustrating when you're trying to find a dispersed camping area. You just have to drive around and try to find one that isn't occupied. There is a lot of debate also about whether you should share the location of dispersed campsites. Many argue that if you publicize them, it just leads to people who don't really care about the surroundings and wouldn't put the work in themselves to using those sites and trashing them. And we have seen that happen. So we won't be sharing specific coordinates for dispersed campsites, but we will often share the general area or a road that we found campsites on. We're curious to know what you think about the debate. Do you think they should all be publicized, the ones that are established, or should they be kept top secret? We've talked about in the future creating a Patreon page where we would share campsites that we found. We feel like that could be a good middle ground. If somebody's following along closely enough to know we have it and they're willing to pay for that information, they're probably going to be more likely to respect the surroundings. But we are curious what you all think. Finding these kind of campsites can be hit or miss depending on the area. We saw plenty of them in Manistee while we were exploring. But in our home state of Indiana, for example, we have Hoosier National Forest. There is a section of it in central Indiana where we've always been able to find dispersed camping. But last year we were exploring a section of it in southern Indiana and had a very difficult time finding dispersed campsites. This leads us to the second kind of dispersed camping we discovered in Manistee. Oh, so 2 camping units, 2 vehicles per site. Many national forests have established dispersed camping areas. This kind of camping is still free and it is still first come, first serve, but you're required to camp within a specific area. Out west, we've seen this take the form of just an area where you can camp anywhere within that area. We saw this in the Badlands of South Dakota, where you could drive into this area and camp, and there were a lot of other people there. So you're kind of losing that aspect of the privacy and the serenity of traditional dispersed camping. In the national forest in the eastern part of the United States here, though, our experience has been with designated sites. So there will still be a dispersed camping area, but there are designated sites within that area, and you're required to camp in one of those numbered designated sites. We would actually consider these to be free primitive campgrounds as opposed to dispersed camping, but they are often much more spread out than regular campsites. You'll tend to find this kind of setup in areas that are heavily used or in areas that need to be protected in some way. So here in Manistee, most of these are along lakefronts and river corridors. It's easier to find information about these kind of areas on the Forest Service websites. You can go through the camping section and click through the various campgrounds or camping areas, and these dispersed areas will usually be listed as one of the options. So you're able to see exactly where they are and know where you're going. The downside to these, again, though, is that you don't have the same kind of privacy, and because they are more popular areas, that first come, first serve may come into play more often. So this leads to the third kind of dispersed camping we found in Manistee National Forest. And this was the first time we had seen this in a national forest. We've encountered it in state forests before, specifically Pennsylvania state forests. And that is dispersed campsites that require reservations. These, again, are going to be more popular, heavily used areas, but they are individual campsites. So again, you have a little bit more privacy. Technically, these campsites are still free, but you do have to usually pay a reservation fee. Somewhere around $6 is what we've commonly seen. So in the Manistee Forest where we were exploring, this was required for the dispersed campsites alongside the Manistee River. So those are all dispersed.
Backcountry campsites.
But from Memorial Day to Labor Day, you have to reserve them on the website. That was the only place we saw that you had to reserve sites from Memorial Day through Labor Day. I believe that you have to do that along the Ausable River corridor as well. With these kind of sites, you're probably not going to have any kind of pit toilet or vault toilet, although there may be a fire ring and a picnic table at these sites. These could be really good options for anyone who doesn't like looking for a site and just wants to be able to drive directly to it, as their specific location is clearly identified on the reservation map. Again, though, because they're so popular, they're harder to come by. We actually checked to see what was available a couple weeks before we were headed up there, and everything was already reserved. These are usually highly desirable sites because of their location on the rivers or lakefronts. We would still tend to lean more towards the traditional type of dispersed camping, but we would be willing to pay the $6 for a premium site right on the river as well. We'd love to hear about your thoughts and experiences with dispersed camping, and if there's anybody from the area who has more knowledge about dispersed camping in Manistee, we'd love to hear what you know. Thanks so much for watching. We hope you found this video helpful, and we'll see y'all in the next video.